Chapter 81 The explosive duo shows their power, and Dazbonis is defeated. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Edited content. The explosive duo showed their stuff, and Dazbonis was completely shut down. Damn it, a devil fruit user. Nayla cursed, seeing the vines suddenly sprout and trap everyone. As the team's brains and hockey expert, plus a sniper, he should have spotted the enemy and warned everyone. He'd let his guard down, too focused on the duel between Dongli and Brocky. He dodged the vines at the last second, but the others were caught. Well, aren't you quick? A voice whispered in Nayla's ear, making him jump. He was so rattled, he missed the obvious. He glanced down to see thick vines bursting from the ground, snaring his feet. Too late. This is my turf. Nayla looked up at his attacker, a skinny guy in weird clothes, contorting his body. Lush and lush. The vines tightened around Naylu. Give it up. I ate the grow fruit. A creepy smile spread across the guy's face as he sensed the others struggling. I control the plants around here. You're not escaping me on this plant-covered island. The vines continued to grow, ready to ensnare them. Bins, stop yapping and get them all. A blue-haired girl, Ein, emerged from the trees with a squad of marines. She glanced at the captives and turned to Bins. Relax, Ein, Bins replied, looking at his trapped prey. They're not breaking free from my power. Yeah, not happening, Gray said, giving up. He'd wait for a rescue. This sucks. Bebo grunted, struggling against the vines, even biting them until his teeth hurt. Damn it. Nia felt useless. Her role on the ship was shrinking. She was always helpless. I can't breathe. Minina gasped, feeling squeezed by the vines. Former Admiral of the Navy Headquarters, Black Arm, Zifa. Robin's heart sank when she saw Zifa. He was an insurmountable wall. Zifa's appearance rekindled her deepest fears. Maybe it was better to die here. Hey, Peggy. Got it, Xia Qi. Peijin and Xia Qi were also tangled in vines, but they didn't look worried. They were pumped. Admiral of the Navy Headquarters, Black Arm, Zifa. A legend from the old days. Totally. This is our chance to shine and make the world take notice. Yeah. It's our kind of art. Art is an explosion. X2. Boom. The explosion ripped through the air, engulfing everything in flames. Binza's vines disintegrated. Sorry, meeting us was your bad luck. Your turf. Not anymore. The explosion left a massive crater, obliterating everything in its path. Saved, Genos said, shrugging off the tattered remains of his clothes. The burns from the explosion healed instantly. Thank God it missed me, Gray mumbled, staring at the crater. Maybe being tied up by vines wasn't so bad after all. Peijin and Xia Qi's explosions were unpredictable. Idiots. Law, holding Bebo, appeared near Dongli and Brocky. He'd been waiting for the perfect moment to cripple the Navy and rescue his crew, but Peijin and Xia Qi had made so much noise that he had to ditch the sneak attack. Ein frowned at the escapees, then looked at the others still trapped. Letting them escape one by one would be a pain. Shave, star, her sword flashed as Ein appeared in front of Nia, thrusting her blade forward. Dust cutter. Dazbonis lunged, his arms and fingers morphing into blades, slashing at Ein. Clang, star, Ein blocked Dazbonis' attack. Her eyes remained cold. Another devil fruit user, and not on the intel, a new member of the Rhodes Pirates. They were growing fast. You must be a swordsman. Dazbonis stared at Ein. I ate the dice fruit. My whole body becomes a blade. No swordsman can beat that. So, you turned yourself into blades and cut the vines, Ein observed, glancing at the broken vines. But it's just a blade. You think that can't be cut? Destroying slash. Seeing the marine charging, Dazbonis crossed his arms, turning them into blades, and slashed. Swish. The blade sliced through Dazbonis' body, *thud*. Dazbonis fell to his knees, his eyes glazed over, defeated again. But this was different. Against Genos, he'd been exhausted. Against Rhodes, he was outmatched. This time, he was outskilled. Just a blade. If you can't even cut steel, how can you call yourself a swordsman? A swordsman? Dazbonis was stunned. He realized his prized ability was something every swordsman could do, complete failure. Clang. Turning, Ein blocked Genos's attack. Her face was unchanged. As someone who'd been in the Navy's elite, she'd become a swordsman years ago. These pirates had just entered the Grand Line. Except for Captain Rhodes, they were nothing to fear. Chapter 82 Team, Partner. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thwack. Yen whirled around, his long sword a blur, leaving a gaping wound across Genos' chest, and blood gushed out. Game over. Not quite. Genos instantly hurled his axe, aiming a savage blow at Yen. Yen sidestepped the attack with ease, a hint of surprise in his voice as he glanced at Genos. To still be fighting after taking a hit like that? You've got some serious willpower. But the gap between our power levels is just too wide to overcome. Hit like what? What are you talking about? Genos turned, his chest soaked in blood, but without a scratch to be seen. Yen's eyes widened for a split second, then realization dawned. A devil fruit user, huh? Still, it only delays the inevitable. This fight was lost before it began. Yen leveled his sword at Genos. You can't beat me with what you've got. And Zifa's definitely going to win. No matter how hard you try, you're just postponing your defeat. Our captain's gonna win, no doubt about it. Genos retorted, his tone unwavering. And I'm going to win our fight too. That he wasn't a fan of fighting, a peaceful life was his ideal. But now that he was in it, Genos was committed. Win at all costs. Clang. Yen abruptly deflected a bullet fired from a distance, his gaze snapping toward the source. Black Gun Nerlu. Sorry to interrupt, but I don't think we need to stick to a fair, one-on-one duel right now. Nerlu stood back, Black Gun raised slightly, addressing either Genos or Yen. Whatever. I'm not exactly a stickler for one-on-one fights, Genos said casually. If there's a way to win, I'll take it. Ein's expression didn't change. Typical dirty pirate. Zifa had seen an opening on the island, making this a good time to attack, which is why only the three of them had come ahead. More Navy troops would be arriving soon, though. In terms of numbers, the Navy had it in the bag. How are you holding up? Meanwhile, while Pekan and Shiachi kept Bins occupied, Law was freeing the others who had been tied up. I'm fine. I'm going to help Pekan and the others. Nia shot toward the fight with Pekan, even though Pekan and Shiachi's abilities had some advantage over Bins and kept him from restraining them. Bins wasn't just relying on his devil fruit. His mastery of the Navy's 6 styles was impressive, especially his use of shave. He moved at lightning speed, making him hard to pin down. I'll stay out of the way. Gray knew his limitations. Fighting isn't exactly my strong suit. Minina watched the battle, eager to help but unsure where to start. Law observed her, noting that the vines binding her had been on the verge of snapping when he freed her, and that was before Nia had gone into her half-beast form. Take care of Robin. Law gestured toward Robin. Robin was physically unharmed but seemed lost in thought. She was doing better now, but she had been shaking like a leaf earlier. It was more of a mental thing, outside Law's area of expertise. He hoped Minina, being a cheerful woman, could offer some comfort. Beepo, stop the bleeding for Dazbonis. Activating his room, Law teleported the badly wounded Dazbonis to his side. After assessing his injuries, Law instructed Beepo, this guy just got over his last beating. Got it. Beepo grabbed bandages and gauze from Law's medical kit, quickly working to stem the blood flow. He stole glances at the other fights. Nerlu and Genos were coordinating well, combining close-quarters combat with long-range attacks, holding their own for now. Pekan and Shechi's fight was more chaotic. Their devil fruit powers guaranteed a high-energy showdown. Plus, fighting in a dense forest like this called for their abilities to clear the area. Otherwise, a plant-based devil fruit user could restrain them all over again. After stabilizing Dazbonis, Law expanded his ability, encompassing Dongli and Brokey. With a flurry of strikes, Kikoku sliced through the vines holding the giants. Invisible force swept over their bodies. Damn it! Law frowned at the weakened giants. They had taken a beating, but not a serious one. Exhaustion had taken its toll. The duel had pushed them past their limits. They couldn't decide the winner, and now were too weak to fight. They're completely wiped out. Sorry for the trouble. Dongli and Brokey understood the situation. The Navy had ambushed them at the worst possible time, while they were still drained from their battle. Now they were a liability to their friends. Don't worry about us. Run. Elbaf warriors don't abandon their friends. Take our weapons. Symbols of the friendship we give to our friends. Quit rambling, you old giant, Law forced a smile. We don't leave our friends behind. We're gonna win, that's a promise, The blue halo surrounded the giants again. At least he could patch them up. Minina spoke up. If you're drained from fighting, maybe I can help. I can make a special energy dish. It tastes weird, but it'll restore your strength fast. Awesome. Law breathed a sigh of relief. He had to get Dongli and Brokey back in fighting condition, because Rod was facing the former Navy Admiral Black Arm Zephyr. A legend. I'll help too. Robin said, a note of determination in her voice despite her trembling body. You can't handle that alone. Giants eat way more than us, after all. But, Robin, your condition. Minina glanced at Robin with concern. I'll be fine. Robin forced a smile. My friends are all busy. How can I just sit back? As long as you're here, I'll be okay. Chapter 83, Burning Food. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Your punch is getting soft, kid. Bang. A sly grin crept across Zifa's face as he suddenly put some muscle into his stalemate with Rhodes, sending him flying. Before Rhodes could even right himself, Zifa was already on top of him, raining down a barrage of dark-fisted blows. Each punch created a visible shockwave, a ring of white air exploding outwards with a deafening boom, boom. Rhodes crossed his arms, channeling every ounce of his haki into them, barely managing to block Zifa's brutal assault, but the force sent him plummeting. Ugh, cough, the sheer power made Rhodes' insides rattle. A metallic taste filled his mouth, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Gotta respect the old guard. Rhodes wiped his mouth, eyeing Zifa, who wasn't even winded. The guy was pushing 70, but still packing that kind of power, and after a brawl like this, he wasn't even breathing hard. Didn't this geezer have asthma or something? Seriously, anyone who makes it to the top in this world is a straight-up monster. Even with the handicaps of age, injuries, and sickness, they still bring a hell of a fight. Just because I'm a relic of the past doesn't mean a punk like you can take me. Get down. Zifa was on him again, his fist crackling with haki, ready to unleash another devastating blow. 6 King Spear. Rhodes focused his energy and unleashed another 6 King Spear. How green are you, kid? Zifa scoffed as he saw Rhodes's attack. It's because you keep using the same tired move that your punch is getting weaker. Wrong. Rhodes didn't say a word, but his eyes gleamed with intensity. The instant the shockwave launched, Rhodes unleashed his haki as well. The two forces combined, amplifying the attack far beyond its previous strength. Boom. The combined force collided in mid-air, nearly shattering the space itself. The raw power of their haki clashed, instantly vaporizing the debris caught in the blast. He actually pulled it off. A flicker of surprise crossed Zifa's face before he was blasted away like a cannonball. Got it. Rhodes glanced at his fist. Finally, He'd managed to combine the shockwave of the Six King Spear with the external application of Haki. Now all he had to do was get it under control so he could use it whenever he wanted. "You little brat," Zifa roared, rocketing back toward Rhodes. The last attack hadn't done much more than ruffle his feathers. Boom. Their fists collided again, but this time Rhodes didn't follow up with his new move. The Six King Spear was a serious stamina drain, and even then, it hadn't done enough damage to Zifa to be worth it. If he kept spamming it, Rhodes was going to gas out before he did any real damage. But how the hell was he supposed to beat this old guy? Feeling the force behind Zifa's punches, Rhodes started to sweat. If they couldn't put Zifa down for good, they weren't going anywhere. He'd keep hounding them until he caught them. He'd have to try it again. Rhodes's eyes darted to the massive weapons lying nearby, Brokey and Dory's weapons. If he used that move, he might be able to deal some serious damage to Zifa. The Elbaf Spear, Domination. That was the move that could instantly pierce an Island Eater. A super powerful technique reserved for giants, but he hadn't mastered it yet. Only by wielding the giant's weapons could he master it through his Knights Don't Die Bare-Handed ability. Should he try it? Rhodes was torn. If it worked, great. It would give everyone a chance to escape, but if it failed, it could send the whole battle spiraling downward. Your punch isn't the only thing that's gotten weaker. Your resolve has, too. Zifa closed the distance and unleashed another haymaker. Rhodes blocked the blow, then let the momentum carry him backwards. Zifa frowned. It felt like the other guy had used his strength against him. What was he aiming for? Rhodes landed next to Brokey's axe and grabbed the handle. "It's burning." A booming voice echoed across the battlefield as Brokey suddenly burst to life, his entire body glowing red, wisps of white smoke rising off him. On fire. The next moment, Dory was at Rhodes's side as well, hefting his weapon high. Just like Brokey, Dory's skin was red-hot, and Rhodes could feel waves of heat radiating off his giant friends. "What's going on?" Zifa stared at the two giants, completely caught off guard. When he first arrived on the island, he'd confirmed that the two giants were too worn out to fight for a while. That's why he'd left the main force behind and brought only Ein and Bins for a quick strike. But now, out of nowhere, the giants had suddenly regained their fighting spirit. This was a major curveball. The blue ogre Dory and the red ogre Brokey, the two captains of the giant pirates who'd once made waves around the world and had a bounty of 100 million belly on their heads a century ago, their strength was nothing to scoff at. "Looks like a feast." Luo watched Minina. After Minina finished her dish and fed it to Dory and Brokey, the two giants had perked right up. Judging by their current state, the effects of that energy dish were a little much. Usually, it doesn't work this well. Minina flapped her hands, looking flustered. "I was worried that the regular amount wouldn't be enough to help the giant uncles, so I might have tweaked the recipe a bit." Looking at the two giants who were practically breathing fire, Minina's face clouded with guilt. "Looks like I overdid it." "Nah, it might just be perfect." Luo's eyes were glued to the ongoing battle. The fate of everyone on the island would be decided there. "Rhodes, get ready to move out." Brokey felt like there was a bonfire raging inside him, filling him with endless strength. "That's right, let us handle the navy." Dory could feel the power surging through him as well. He and Brokey raised their weapons, setting their sights on Zifa. "You're our friend." "What are you talking about?" Rhodes slapped both giants on the ankle and took a fighting stance of his own. "How can we leave our friends behind?" "That's right, we'll beat the navy together and then leave." Chapter 84 Pirates must use any means necessary. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is rough. Zifa's face was grim as he stared down the two giants brandishing their huge blades. These guys were powerhouses. His Haki was picking up the overwhelming force radiating from them, but "I am Black Arm Zifa." With unwavering resolve blazing in his eyes, Zifa roared, slamming his iron fists as he charged toward Rhodes and the others once more. Sun saw. Dongli and Bragi roared back, raising their massive weapons in unison. These two warriors, who had been locked in combat on this island for nearly a century, were finally fighting together. And they meshed together perfectly. they knew each other better than anyone else in the world. Their weapons collided, whistling violently as they swung in a cross-chop aimed at Zifa. Zifa grinned, facing their attack head-on. He hadn't had this kind of brawl in ages. Boom! Zifa unleashed a powerful, hockey-infused punch, meeting the oncoming attacks with everything he had. Rod burst into motion as they fought, their body crackling with hockey like a blazing inferno, a blatant display of power. 6 king spears, that while Zifa was occupied with the 2 giants, Rod closed the distance and dropped like a hammer. All that pent-up power, surging through their arms, focused on Zifa in a brutal strike. The full force of the blow slammed into Zifa, the impact registering on his face. Dongli and Bragi seized the moment, adding their own might to the attack, sending Zifa flying. That punk's a natural-born pirate menace. That the dust settled, revealing Zifa with his clothes in tatters. A trickle of blood dripped from his lip. He'd definitely taken a beating. More importantly, Rod noticed that Zifa's breathing was labored. Just a friendly hello. Rod didn't give a damn about one-on-one fights or sneaking in attacks. As far as they were concerned, a downed enemy was a good enemy. The giant uncles were patched up enough to jump back into the fight, but there was no telling how long they'd last. Zifa's breathing was ragged. If they could keep the pressure on until his asthma kicked in, it would be a major victory. Should we just ditch this place? Beepo trailed behind Law toward the shore, constantly glancing back at the raging battle. Our goal isn't to smash the Navy, it's to ditch this rock. Law said without breaking stride. How do you figure those 3 Navy bruisers got here? Warship. Robin followed after Law. Yeah, but so far, we've only seen those 3. We don't know where they came ashore, how many ships they have, or where they're parked. To be honest, I'm more worried they've spotted the polar tang. That'd be a disaster. As he spoke, Beepo pushed aside a thick cluster of bushes. Navy. Hidden behind the foliage, a squad of armed Navy soldiers stood guard. Room. The instant he saw them, Law unleashed his power, a light blue bubble expanding rapidly. Clutch. Before Law could make a move, Robin was already on it, arms sprouted from the Navy soldiers' joints, snapping them like twigs. I left a couple alive. We might get some info out of them. Robin gestured to the 2 petrified, whimpering soldiers. They only needed basic intel, and these weaklings were the perfect targets. Good. Just 1 ship, and they haven't spotted the polar tang. After getting the scoop, Law scanned his crew. Penguin, Beepo, you 2 get Minina back to the polar tang and prep for departure. Robin, come with me. Let's snag that warship. Snag the warship? That's the plan, anyway. We'll have to play it by ear. Worst case, we torch the whole damn thing. Alright, let's move. Cough, cough, cough. After another bone-jarring collision, Zifa's face flushed crimson, and he erupted in a fit of coughing. Looks like we're the winners here. Dongli and Bragi, spent and weary, leaned heavily on their weapons. Minina's cooking had only given them a temporary boost. After all that fighting, they were starting to burn out. Still, they were a lot better off than before. You guys still got some fight in you, Dongli, Bragi? Damn right. Then come with us. The Navy's sniffing around. The 2 giants exchanged glances. Hell yeah. A friend's inviting us. Can't say no. But, we can't sail with you guys. We gotta head back to Elbaf. Deal. Hey. I haven't thrown in the towel. Zifa bellowed when he overheard Rod and his crew plotting their escape. You're too old for this crap. Hang it up and chill at HQ. Rod locked eyes with the grizzled old Marine. This was a Navy guy who deserved some respect. Too bad his life was a damn tragedy. His retirement wasn't gonna be pretty. Our captain has requested that you stop. Pekin and Shachi moved forward, flanking bins for protection. You wouldn't want anything to happen to your precious student, right? Although there's nothing cute about him. The sight of his kidnapped disciples sparked a memory of the incident from 3 years ago, and Zifa's heart sank. Could that nightmare happen again? Zifa glared at Pekan and Shachi with such intensity that they flinched. Don't move, Pekan warned Zifa. I'm the bomber. I ate the bomb fruit. I've rigged him with enough explosives to turn him into a firework display. Yeah, and I'm the exploder. Ate the explode fruit. If you try anything funny, I'll blow his clothes off. Damn you, Zifa seethed, but he was powerless. The asthma attack had left him too weak for sustained combat. Looks like we've scored a major win. Genos strolled over, carrying Ein. Ein. Relax, she's just out cold. Geno casually dumped Ein on the ground, pulled out a cigarette, and lit it. That woman was a swordsman and a devil fruit user. If Nia hadn't shown up to back him up, he'd have been fighting her for ages. What now, Rod? Neru still had a death grip on his black rifle. He wasn't injured, but the exhaustion was etched on his face. Seeing the unspoken question in Neru's eyes, Rod shook their head slightly. They weren't strong enough for that. Even with Zifa in rough shape, Rod wouldn't risk killing him. This wasn't the deranged Z from the movie who wanted to obliterate the new world. This was a former admiral who had trained countless naval legends. If Rod killed Zifa here, the Navy would hunt them to the ends of the earth, and taking out Zifa's remaining 2 students from the attack 3 years ago just to score the Prosper fruit and the Revert fruit wasn't a smart move. Old man, you lost this round, Rod said to Zifa and gave him Ein and Bin's back. But you won the actual fight. Next time we meet, I'm taking that prosthetic leg of yours as a trophy. Rod turned and led their crew back toward the shore. Oh, one more thing, Rod whipped around. You Navy guys need to come up with a better nickname for me. Damn it. Chapter 85, Remarks on the Launch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It drops tomorrow at noon. Thanks to everyone who's been following along. First, the update news. I'll be posting about 10,000 words around 12:30 p.m. on release day. I'm juggling writing with a demanding job, often working overtime, which makes consistent updates tough, but I'll be ramping things up after the release, aiming for at least 6,000 words daily. Also, the update schedule will change. After release, look for updates around 9 p.m. every night. Now, about bonus chapters. P.S. Each bonus chapter is around 2,000 words. First order bonus, this book has over 6,000 favorites. Estimating a 10-to-1 subscription ratio on Chidian, a good first order would be around 600, so, starting at 600, I'll add a bonus chapter for every additional 100 first orders, average order bonus. At the end of each month, I'll check the average orders. For every additional 200 average orders, I'll add another chapter, monthly ticket bonus. I'm not expecting much in the way of monthly tickets, probably doesn't matter for a writer like me, and they only really count when you get over 1,000 in a month. But just in case, if monthly votes exceed 1,000 in a single month, I'll add one chapter for every 1,000 votes. Reward bonus. Rewards are up to fate. I'm not pushing it, but I'll mention that for every 20,000 in cumulative rewards, I'll add a chapter. Finally, thanks again for reading. I hope to write a story you all enjoy. Chapter 86 Hegemony. First order please. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Teacher Zifa. Ein snapped awake, not sure how long she'd been out. The first thing she saw was the slightly stooped back of Teacher Zifa. That back, always a towering mountain, shielding them from everything, looked kind of frail all of a sudden. Where are they? Ein sat up, scanning their surroundings. The place was unrecognizable. The once dense woods had been completely trashed in the fight. Those 2 pirate ability users were basically walking bombs, leveling everything in sight. That's a big reason Bin's lost. Besides, there were huge craters everywhere, different from the blast craters. Those were Zifa's doing. We lost, Zifa said, his voice heavy. They got away. Ein clenched her fists, frustration burning in her eyes. It was her fault, she was too weak. After she went down, Teacher Zifa had to use some cheap trick to let them escape. It wasn't exactly an escape. They beat us, then spared our lives and walked away with their heads held high. What? Ein's heart skipped a beat. She stared at her teacher, shocked. Never thought I'd be shown mercy by pirates. Zifa gave a sad smile, his face unreadable. Pirates. They'd destroyed countless families. Zifa's mind flashed to his wife and children. It felt like a lifetime ago. Their faces were fading, replaced by the gut-wrenching pain he couldn't escape. He'd even lost his beloved students. The memory of what happened 3 years ago was still so fresh. Every student's face burned into his mind. And now, these pirates, after completely crushing him, just let them live. Maybe it was time to finally hang it up. Teacher Zifa. Zifa sat on a rock, staring at the sunset. Ein and Bin stood behind him, their expressions troubled. General Zifa, a group of Marines came running up. We got kicked off the ship. The pirates stole our warship. And there were giants. Contact Naval Headquarters. Ein turned and started barking orders, not wanting them to bother Zifa. You're a lifesaver, Law. Rhodes clapped Law on the shoulder. He not only saved the Polar Tang, but he also jacked a warship from the Navy. Total genius. Humph. Law smirked, pleased with himself. Let's get out of here. The Polar Tang slipped out of the river and into the sea. Uncle Broggy, Uncle Dory, you guys good to go? Rhodes called out to the 2 giants on the stolen warship. Rhodes had given the ship to Dory and Broggy. They were headed in different directions. The giants were going back to Elbaf, while Rhodes and his crew were continuing on the Grand Line. Ha! We're the captains of the giant pirates. The 2 giants, fed and rested, had regained their strength. Broggy roared back at Rhodes. Thanks a bunch, kid. When you make it to the new world, you gotta come visit Elbaf. We'll roll out the red carpet. Dory stroked his beard, beaming. We will, for sure. And, sorry about this. Broggy suddenly raised his giant axe. We promised you our weapons, but I don't think we can deliver. Dory drew his long sword. These 2 have been with us for over 100 years and they're about to give out. I think they've got one last fight left in them. As they spoke, the calm sea began to churn violently. Huge waves rose up, like the ocean's heartbeat speeding up, sending ripples everywhere. The Polar Tang pitched and rolled. Then, a massive golden fish emerged. It was huge, its body almost like a small island. Its scales were bigger than the Polar Tang. Even Laboon would be like 1/10 of its size. What in the world is that? Beepo gasped, staring at the massive creature. You're kidding me, that thing is enormous. Nia's eyes widened, fixed on the fish. Yeah, there's no way I could have left this island alone. Minina was speechless, staring at the goldfish. Island Eater Goldfish. Dory said the name, sounding grim. This thing's eaten all the islands around here. Most of the adventurers who come by end up as lunch. Alright, friends, allow us to show you Elbaf's strongest attack. Dory and Broggy raised their weapons, crouched slightly, and took the same stance. Veins bulged in their arms as they channeled power and momentum. That's. Rhodes watched Dory and Broggy on the warship. The pressure's insane. Not just their stance alone was radiating incredible power. Elbaf's spear. The giant goldfish reared up, its open mouth like a bottomless pit, ready to swallow everything. Then, a terrifying shockwave ripped from the warship, making the air crack. It slammed into the goldfish, tearing through its body. This is. Rhodes stared at their special attack, mesmerized. Hakai. Dory and Broggy's weapons shattered. Hakai, the signature move of the giants. A special stance, channeling all of their power, momentum, and haki through their weapons to unleash a massive shockwave. It could split mountains and part the seas. This is our last gift. Gabba Baba Ba, next time you're in Elbaf, we'll get you a new weapon. No, this is more than enough. Rhodes knew what to do, and Law instantly used his power to teleport the broken weapons onto the Polar Tang. They're huge. The broken weapons took up half the deck. We need a bigger ship. Gray rubbed his chin. With more and more crew members, the Polar Tang was getting cramped, not to mention the amount of food they were going through. They needed more storage. Well, goodbye. The crew of the Polar Tang waved to the warship. Gabba Baba BA, we'll be waiting for you in the new world. Broggy and Dory laughed as the Polar Tang sailed away. Please support the original author. Chapter 87 The Course of the Polaris, please pre-order. You are listening at novelfull.audio. So, which island are we hitting next? After waving goodbye to their giant pals, the Polaris veered away from the little garden. Nera turned to Rod. Since it takes a full year for the garden to recharge its magnetic field, their log pose was still locked on it. They didn't have a course plotted for anywhere else, but they'd anticipated this. They had a set of permanent log poses pointing to different islands. Rod set down the massive weapon their giant friends had given them, walked to the helm, and surveyed the 6 permanent log poses Nera had laid out. Marineford. This one they'd snatched from Ghost Spider's warship, Pass. Rod would have to be nuts to head to Marineford, Dressrosa. This was probably lifted from Spider Miles, useful, sure. They'd be tangling with Doflamingo sooner or later, but Dressrosa was in the New World, the second half of the Grand Line. No need for that one just yet. York Island. This permanent log pose had been looted from Zepha's ship. It pointed to some unknown location. Nobody on the ship had ever heard of it, not even Robin, with all her knowledge, or Neru, who obsessively collected intel about the Grand Line. Considering it was from Zepha's ship, it might be a secret Navy base. So, pass on that too. That left 3. Rod eyed the remaining log poses. Entertainment Capital, Lavis. Neru, noticing Rod's gaze, chimed in. I grabbed this permanent log pose back when I was with Spider Miles. Lavis is a famous entertainment hub on the Grand Line. All the fun you can imagine. Sailors and pirates alike flock there. I've even heard celestial dragons go there to party. Fighting strictly forbidden, so even pirates don't have to worry about getting nabbed by the Navy. Sounds like a good time. Fashion Capital, Champelasis Islands. Robin read off the next one, filling in the details. It's a shopper's paradise made up of 5 islands. A trendsetter for the whole world. Fashion, huh? Not exactly a big draw. Last one's Alabasta. Rod spoke up, describing the final log pose. It's a major power in the first half of the Grand Line. Should be right along our current route. So, that's where we're headed. Nera looked at Rod, testing the waters. If she remembered right, they'd stolen that log pose from Baroque Works back at Whiskey Peak, and Rod had said that Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, was the big boss behind Baroque Works, and the so-called protector of Alabasta. Nope. Rod shook his head. As much as I'd like to throw down with Crocodile, now's not the right time. It's on our original course. The Navy's probably set up an ambush there. It takes a year for the small garden to recharge its magnetic force. We only hung out there for 2 days. The Navy's gotta know that. Luo looked puzzled. They wouldn't have been able to recharge their log pose in 2 days. The Navy shouldn't still be chasing them on that route. Can't bet on that. Rod waved him off. What if they're not that smart and head to Alabasta to intercept us? We'd be walking into a trap. Rod didn't have much faith in the Navy's critical thinking skills. He pointed to one of the other log poses. Let's hit the entertainment capital, Lavis. Got it. Nera nodded. Luo didn't argue. The Polaris swung around, heading for Lavis, Marine Headquarters, Marineford. Zephyr failed. Fleet Admiral Sengoku set down his transponder snail. This pirate crew that had recently emerged from the North Blue hadn't committed any major crimes along the way, or done anything particularly terrible, but they were making waves within the Navy. He thought Zephyr would bring them down this time. But even he had failed. This pirate crew seemed to have become too big for the Navy headquarters to ignore, and what Zephyr had told him over the snail was bigger than just the road pirates. Giant pirates. A century later, the 2 former captains of the giant pirates, Blue Ogre Dory and Red Ogre Broggy, who had been locked in a duel on Little Garden, were back at sea. Thinking about the many giant vice-admirals in the Navy and the few giants who still guarded Eni's lobby, Sengoku felt a dull ache in his head. Crunch, crunch, star, the loud sound grated on his nerves. Sengoku slammed his hand on the table. Garp. Stop stealing my rice crackers. Ha 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 ha, I'm not stealing them, Garp, sitting across from Sengoku, chortled, stuffing his face with rice crackers. I'm eating them right in front of you. You jerk, Sengoku went ballistic, grabbing a handful of crackers and shoving them in his mouth. Eat slower, you pig, Garp quickly protected the rest of the snacks. I'll take care of those pirates. Just point me at them. Garp swiped the rest of the rice crackers from Sengoku and turned the conversation to business before the fleet admiral could get any angrier. It's not just about the road pirates, Sengoku rubbed his temples. But they are a problem. According to Zephyr, Road was his equal in combat. Even without the two giants butting in, the outcome would have been hard to predict. If Zephyr's not feeling well, he should hang out in Marineford. Garp wiped his clothes while Sengoku wasn't looking. He can't let go of his twisted sense of justice. Sengoku's tone was laced with exhaustion. He told his old friend more than once to retire and live out his days in Marineford. Zephyr always refused, for that old soldier who had lost everything, dedicating his entire life to the justice of the Navy was his last purpose. So, this red-haired kid's pretty strong, huh? Garp picked up the road bounty poster that had fallen to the floor. This bounty's way too low. I'm just about to reassess it. Sengoku rubbed his head again. This pirate crew's bounty was escalating fast. Doesn't matter if you raise it or not, I'll bring him all in. Garp grinned, cracking his knuckles. That kid's hair reminds me of another pirate bastard. Red hair, Sengoku's eyes widened. That guy's one of the emperors of the New World now. Chapter 88 The Wind is Blowing, First Order please. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'm out of here, Sengoku, Garp boomed, walking out of Sengoku's office with a hearty laugh, Rod's bounty poster clutched in his hand. Where are you planning to nab him? Sengoku called after him. The Navy hadn't even managed to get a whiff of the Rod pirate's location yet. Don't sweat the small stuff. Garp waved the bounty in the air. He'd once chased Roger, the pirate king himself, all over the map. A rookie pirate like this would be a cakewalk. Sengoku relaxed a little, remembering Garp's past exploits. Oh, right. Garp suddenly spun back around. After this, I'm heading back to the East Blue for some RR, haven't seen my adorable grandson in ages. Ha ha ha, asterisk that guy asterisk, Sengoku thought, shaking his head as Garp disappeared. Only chasing down pirates truly lit a fire under his old friend. Since Garp was on the case, there was no rush to update Rod's bounty. With that thought, Sengoku shoved a document on his desk into the goat's mouth that served as his office's unique trash can. Next up, the even bigger headache, the giant pirates and the giants themselves. Sengoku sighed, staring at the looming stack of paperwork. A new emperor had just risen in the New World, and now the giant pirates, silent for a century, were back on the scene. He couldn't help but wonder what chaos these events would unleash upon the seas. He pulled a special den mushi from his drawer. Moses, Sengoku here, a booming voice crackled from the other end. What's up? It's about the giant pirates and the giants. 5 elders, in the holy land of Marihoa, within the hallowed halls of Pangu Castle, the 5 elders sat in a circle, eyes fixed on the den mushi. We're aware of the situation, the bald elder, a god of law and war, said calmly after hearing Sengoku's report. And Judicial Island. Don't trouble yourself with that, Sengoku, interrupted the god of justice, Topman Vachali Saint. We'll assign someone else to handle the follow-up. More importantly, how's the search for the 7 warlords of the sea progressing? No other suitable candidates have been found as yet. Sengoku paused. Too slow. The god of science defense, J. Garcia Saturn Saint, tapped his cane with a hint of impatience. The warlords are crucial for maintaining the world's balance, especially with the emergence of a 4th emperor of the sea. The fact that we haven't assembled all 7 is detrimental to the increasingly turbulent era ahead. Hawkeye Mihawk, Pirate Empress Boa Hancock, Crocodile, Gecko Moria, Sea Knight Jinbe, and Doflamingo. That last warlord spot needs to be filled ASAP. Understood. Sengoku replied. See to it that you do. The call abruptly ended. Really? Sengoku muttered, putting the den mushi away. Even though the 5 elders had taken over the giant pirates and giant issue, he couldn't completely wash his hands of it. Besides, there was still the warlord problem. The 7 warlords of the sea, easier said than done. He shook his head, thinking of the headaches the selection process always caused. Back in Mariajoa, Saturn Saint tapped his cane again. The Navy might need a little nudge. The god of law and war, Saint Vultuli, shook his head. Let's hold off on that. What about the giants? Let CP handle it. They've always managed those situations well. Agreed. Agreed. All right. And what about the 7 warlords? Saturn pressed. We can't leave everything to the Navy. Let CP keep an eye out for candidates. Agreed. It seems there's some internal resistance to the warlord system within the Navy. Having CP looking at potential candidates would be a good move. Then it's settled. Meanwhile, on Lavis Island in the Grand Line, a famous entertainment hotspot filled with casinos, gambling dens, and pleasure districts, a hub for any imaginable form of entertainment. Although the Rain Feast Casino in Alabasta had taken some of its shine in recent years, it was still the biggest entertainment capital in the first half of the Grand Line. Fufu, you seem to be in high spirits, Tesoro. Doflamingo, in his signature pink feather coat, watched Tesoro's performance on stage, a glass of red wine swirling in his hand. Tesoro, with his slicked-back gray-green hair and purple sunglasses perched atop his head, sported an equally flamboyant pink suit, dripping with gold jewelry. He was the epitome of flashy arrogance. Removing his suit and handing it to an attendant, Tesoro snatched a glass of red wine from a nearby waiter. He strolled over to Doflamingo, casually crossed his legs, and settled in beside him. Just killing time. Tesoro took a sip, set the glass down, and glanced at the newspaper on the table. Are these little punks ruffling your feathers? He asked, ignoring Doflamingo's darkening mood. He picked up the paper and scanned the headlines. Not bad. They actually managed to escape from Black Arm Zephyr. The news covered the Rod pirates' escapades at Whiskey Peak and their clash with the former admiral in Little Garden, ending with a successful getaway. The paper even included a detailed photo spread, almost like a Rod pirate's yearbook. The real reason you're upset is this guy, Tesoro said, pulling out another newspaper and placing it in front of Doflamingo. Doflamingo's expression turned even stormier, because Tesoro had hit the nail on the head. The op fruit, last I heard, it was going for a cool 5 billion in the underworld. Tesoro went on, oblivious to Doflamingo's simmering rage. When that fruit surfaced, it was supposedly in the North Blue. Weren't you in that neighborhood at the time? Could it be they snatched this one from you too? Swish. Tesoro tilted his head back just as a razor-thin line sliced through the air, severing the wine glass in his hand and splattering red wine across his pristine white shirt. You're getting a little too comfortable, Tesoro. The veins in Doflamingo's forehead bulged. Chapter 89 Mingge and Laosha's attention, first order please. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You're getting ahead of yourself, Tesoro. Doflamingo's voice dripped with menace, and the temperature in the room plummeted. Relax, Joker. Tesoro, seemingly unfazed, just chuckled and tossed the newspaper onto the coffee table. Even though I did swipe that devil fruit from you back in the day, we're tight partners now. As if remembering their arrangement, Doflamingo forced a smile. Speaking of which, how's your little project coming along? Guild Tesoro, the gangster who jacked a devil fruit from the Don Quixote family years ago, had become a force to be reckoned with. The reason he was still in Doflamingo's good graces, despite the initial transgression, was simple: strength and brains. He'd pushed the gold fruit to its awakening, making him a match for Doflamingo himself. And for a guy who started as a low-level thug, pulling off the devil fruit heist was a testament to his cunning. Since then, he'd leveraged the fruit's power and his own smarts to build a name for himself in just a few short years. for Doflamingo, a solid partnership outweighed a petty grudge over a devil fruit, especially since he needed Tesoro's help with his future plans. Of course, that was assuming Tesoro's scheme actually worked. Grand Tesoro is basically done. Tesoro swirled the wine in his glass, a picture of confidence. We've got the manpower. I've brought most of Lavis's crew on board. Plus, we've made connections with the world government. As soon as Grand Tesoro officially opens, we'll be cozying up as a member nation, with the Navy's backing. Fufufu, good to hear you're so prepared. Doflamingo raised his own glass of wine, clinking it against Tesoro's. He downed the wine, then stood up. I'll swing by for the Grand Tesoro's official opening and lend a hand. Leaving already? Tesoro looked surprised. Just passing through, thought I'd check in. Doflamingo waved a hand and headed out, Baby, 5 and Buffalo in tow. If you run into that doctor from the Heart Pirates, I'll give him your regards. Doflamingo paused, then continued on his way. Whiskey Peak and Little Garden weren't anywhere near Lavis. The chances of running into Law here were slim. Alabasta, Ryan based an oasis in the desert, and a thriving one at that. Since Crocodile's arrival, it had only gotten better. With a warlord of the sea in charge, petty pirates didn't dare cause trouble. Even desert bandits and shady merchants kept a low profile. The tallest, most opulent building in Rain Base was Crocodile's casino, Rain Dinners. Bang! Crocodile slammed a newspaper onto his desk. These kids are getting bolder by the day. He took a long drag from his cigar, exhaling slowly, but wasn't truly angry. Baroque Works was just a means to an end, a way to line his pockets. Most of his employees didn't even know who he was, so, whether the Heart Pirates were taking out his guys in the North Blue, dismantling his base in Whiskey Peak, or even poaching Dazbonis, it wasn't a big deal. His goal, from day one, was singular, to find the location of the ancient weapon, Pluton, and use its power to become the next pirate king. But, Crocodile's gaze lingered on the photos of the Heart Pirates in the newspaper, finally settling on the face of a black-haired girl. O'Hara's survivor, Nico Robin. The only person alive who can read the poneglyphs. He had been searching for Nico Robin. Now, she had joined the Rod Pirates. Maybe he should just wipe out these brats and grab Nico Robin. Crocodile scanned the photos of the Heart Pirates crew. Even after reading about the Heart Pirates' escape from former Marine Admiral, Black Arm, Zephyr, he wasn't convinced he couldn't crush the group. Zephyr was yesterday's news. But the Unluckies haven't reported back. A flicker of thought crossed Crocodile's face. The Unluckies were his messengers and enforcers. In addition, they collected intelligence for the company. They should have been at Whiskey Peak when the Heart Pirates were causing trouble, but there was no word from them, no intel. Did the Rod Pirates take them out too? Crocodile muttered to himself. They would be useful to have at the moment. It looks like he had one more reason to obliterate the Rod Pirates, unknown waters, on the Polaris. This is incredible. Rod lifted his chopsticks, full of appreciation. So delicious. I can't stop eating. Hey, Gray, go ahead and scrap that auto-cooker. Penguin, Shachi, and Beepo patted their round bellies, sprawled on the deck, and addressed the robot, Gray. Some thanks, huh? Who was it that swore the auto-cooker made the best food in the world? Sorry, we lied. Minina's cooking is the best ever. Great. Glad you like it. Minina returned with another mountain of food and set it on the table, beaming, her eyes crinkling into crescents. Wow. Minina's smile is the best. If you like it, eat more. There's a huge pot of food inside. Sorry, our stomachs can't handle it. The trio eyed the newly served dishes, then glanced at their stomachs, and slowly shook their heads. The aroma of the food was still tempting, but their bodies had reached their limit. They couldn't eat another bite. Chapter 90 Genos's new weapon, First Order Request. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Robin, your tea. Minina handed Robin a cup and jumped back into the fray. Everyone on this ship eats like a horse. She didn't feel so special anymore, especially Rod. Thanks, Minina. Robin took the tea, looked up from her book, and gave her friends a small smile. Rod was still scarfing down food with Mingge. Nero was reading after polishing off his plate, Luo was leaning back, grinning, Pekin, Shachi, and Beepo were patting their full bellies. Nia was so stuffed she'd already dozed off. Gray was rambling about a food processor but still nibbling away. Genos was patting the puppy Sisai's head and puffing out smoke. Dazbonis was still wrapped in bandages, clearly stuffed. But forcing down one last bite, these partners, each with their own quirks, were all incredibly reliable. With them, they could handle anything. A face flashed through Robin's mind, and she felt a surge of confidence. "You've seemed a lot more relaxed since we left the little garden," Nero murmured, looking up from his own book. He'd sensed a definite shift in her mood, a release from the tension she'd been carrying. Sensing Robin's gaze, Nero glanced at Rod, who was still in a food-eating contest with Mingge. "Don't sweat it. You're one of us. No matter the enemy, Rod will be in front. Just trust him." "Mr. Navigator and Sniper," Robin said, gently closing her book, using an unusual nickname. "Has anyone ever told you it's unnerving how easily you see through people?" Despite the words, there was a glint of amusement in Robin's eyes. "Just call me Nero." Nero didn't rise to her comment. His observation hockey gave him a clear read on Robin's true feelings. Besides, even if she was unhappy, he'd still say what needed to be said. It was his job to handle the things Rod overlooked or never even noticed. Speaking of machines. Gray put down his silverware, sighed contentedly, wiped his mouth, and then his gaze landed on Genos. "I mentioned making you a special weapon before. After seeing your fighting style, I remembered a design I'd abandoned. Honestly, I thought it was a complete failure at the time. But seeing the way you fight, it suddenly clicked. Maybe I designed it hoping to meet you someday." That was all I could think about. "Is this a confession or something?" Rod asked, swallowing a mouthful of food and staring at Gray, who was launching into another monologue. "Get to the point already. First, I want to confirm that your devil fruit power lets you recover quickly, right?" "Duh. You've seen it a million times," Dazbonis grumbled, speaking from experience. "Then this weapon is definitely perfect for you." Gray pulled a dark red gun from a box behind him. Unlike Nero's black sniper rifle, this looked more like an elongated pistol. "When I designed this, I was obsessed with maximum power. I threw everything I had into it, pushing the weapon to its absolute limit. But that comes with a cost. Let's try it out." Rod interrupted, snatching the gun from Gray before he could ramble on further. "Idiot, do it outside. We know that. Mingge, competition's on hold. We'll finish tonight. Beepo, you're on dish duty today. Bear, let's go see what this super weapon can do. And Gray, you should build a dishwasher. Dr. Gray, use your amazing brain to invent a dishwasher." Leaving Gray speechless and sputtering, the group surged onto the deck, eager to test the gun. Even Dazbonis hobbled along, leaving only Robin behind, watching Gray with an amused expression. "How does it work?" Pekin asked, looking like an idiot. "You're such an idiot, it's a gun, you just shoot it." Rod grabbed the weapon, turned it over in his hand, and felt a surge of understanding. His "Knight doesn't die with bare hands" ability kicked in, granting him instant mastery, and all the gun specs flashed through his mind. There were drawbacks, all right. No wonder Gray considered it a failure. "You try it," Rod said, handing the gun to Genos. "Careful." Genos took the gun dubiously, aimed it at the sea, and pulled the trigger. Boom. An earth-shattering roar ripped through the air, followed by a shockwave that slammed into the ocean, creating a monstrous wave and rocking the Polaris. Everyone stared in stunned silence. Was that really from a pistol? Even a cannon couldn't do that. "I think I understand why Gray called it a failed design," Luo murmured. "Are you kidding me? That kind of power is insane." Pekin said, pointing to the churning water. The blast had created a temporary whirlpool in the sea, ripping the water apart and forming a swirling vortex. Even for the combination of him and Shachi, that kind of raw power was impressive. "The power's there, sure, but the price is obvious," Genos said, raising his right hand that held the gun. No way. It's the recoil. That recoil is unreal. Genos' right hand was bent at an unnatural, horrifying angle. A small bubble appeared, resetting Genos' broken arm, and then his accelerated healing kicked in, rapidly mending the damage. If I did this myself. Genos made a quick calculation. It'd take about 10 seconds to reset and heal.